Easy now, folks. We're going to have a look at breeding Corys here, which is relatively easy. They make it easy for us. It's these gorgeous Venezuelan black Corys that I keep, and we can encourage breeding behaviour if we condition them by feeding them well and flush them with a wee bit of cooler water when we do a water change. That seems to signify it's a good time for them to start breeding. And what you'll notice is the male following the female about with his head in like her belly, almost like a T shape. If we notice that behaviour, it's time to start looking for Cory eggs, and you'll find them normally first thing in the morning when you switch the lights on. Unfortunately, I don't catch a lot of them because the other fish in the tank seem to gobble them up first, but every now and then I get a wee bit lucky. It's typically on the sides of the glass that you most notice them, although they do stick them to other surfaces. If they're on the glass, it makes it pretty easy to scrape them out though, so we want to do that really delicately with an old bank card or a local fish store rewards point card. We want to do that as quick as possible and keep them in the water as long as we can. Avoid lifting them out of the water at all if it's possible, but that does take a wee bit of practice to get right. The next thing we want to do is set up a clean takeaway container like this. I've got it wedged between the filter, the rim of the tank and a wee food clip there, as you can see. I like to keep it in the water so it stays the same temperature as the tank water is. And then add a wee air tube as well. That will make sure the water stays aerated. Pretty simple way of building an incubator and making sure your Cory eggs stay safe. It's also quite a nice way to keep an eye on them as well. So there we go. Then we're just going to add the eggs very carefully once again. I think there's 4 or 5 there. We need to keep the water clean and healthy though, so if you've got a wee bit of methylene blue you can add that. A wee bit of Indian almond leaf might help, a catappa leaf. And I've heard of some people having a wee shrimp inside the container. The idea is to stop any fungus growing on the eggs and make sure that they mature. The other thing we can do, of course, is change out a wee bit of water every now and then. So a couple of times a day when I'm passing, I normally scoop a couple of cups out and replace it with water from the tank. Not sure it's 100% necessary at this stage, but also I think it can't hurt anyway. So give it between 3 and 5 days and your eggs are going to hatch. Unfortunately, only one of the eggs made it for me on this occasion, but you need to look really closely to see your fish. They are tiny at this stage and almost transparent. Quite good in terms of survivability in the wild or even in the fish tank. Not so great in terms of us trying to spot them. Even while we're watching them, if they stop still for a moment, they almost seem to disappear. One of the reasons this is significant is because I still like to do a bit of water changing every now and then at this stage, so we need to be careful not to throw the baby out with the bath water, so to speak. I like to add a bit of moss and possibly a floating plant or two as soon as they've hatched. It's going to give them some cover, let them feel a wee bit more comfortable, and also they'll be able to graze microorganisms from in about the moss. The moss will be good for the water as well inside the tub, but we're not going to stop here for too long. We're going to move on to the next stage now. If you have a grow out tank already set up because you were planning this, then you can probably move straight to that stage. However, if it was a bit of a surprise and you want to keep the eggs that you found, then one of these breeding nets is quite handy to have on hand. If you can fit one of these in your tank, again, it means you're keeping the young fish in the same water that it was born in. Helps you keep a good eye on it. And it will buy you a wee bit of time until you get a grow out tank set up. They are super handy and relatively inexpensive. If you've not seen one before, they just attach to the side of your tank using these suction cups. They also come with a false bottom, which we're not going to need in this setup because we are not going to have fish giving birth to live fry. If that were the case, then the fry could drop out of the fish and down through the grill there, keeping them safe underneath, but our fry are going to be the only fish in the net just now, so they're perfectly safe. And there we are. Don't know if you can see the fry on the kind of bottom left corner of the net there as we're looking down through the top. Probably worth adding a wee bit more moss just to make sure that they've got plenty of cover and they're feeling a bit safer. But we can keep them there for a little while until our grow out tank is ready if that was needed. If not, then we can move straight to that stage. All we need is a very, very basic tank. As little in it as possible is better. We need a cycled filter. I have this Marina S15 Slim on hand. Alternatively, box filters or sponge filters are ideal for wee grow out tanks like this. Wee bit of moss just to make him feel comfortable and give him some grazing opportunities. A wee heater, but the light is optional. That's really just so that we can view the fish if we want to. Feeding wise, we need fry food you would normally offer, so baby brine shrimp, micro worms or finely powdered flakes. All going to be good. We're going to keep them in the grow out tank until they are too big to fit into the mouth of the biggest fish you've got in your other tank. Basically so they don't get eaten before they've had a chance. Once they are big enough and healthy, we can acclimate them back into the original aquarium. There's just something about watching a group of Corys that vary in different ages and stages. They are a social fish and it's lovely to see them rocking around as a wee family. So I hope this video has helped you know how to raise eggs if you find them. As ever, if you've got any other tips or tricks, feel free to put them in the comments down below and we'll all help each other out, eh? Right, I'm out though. Later.